Hey guys, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast. My name is Samaria and I'm joined by my best friend and co host.
Miosha.
And today we're reviewing Love is Blind UK episodes 5 and 6. So
Hmm.
before we get into that, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and we love to hear people's thoughts in the comments. So whether you agree or disagree, please let us know what your thoughts are about these couples. All
All
right.
right. I will
So,
say though, this is
mhm,
only 5 and 6. So
yeah.
if you please can, no spoilers in the
Oh,
comments
for seven to
because
nine.
yeah, for 7 and 9, because we haven't gotten there yet. And most people who maybe watching this maybe aren't there either. So
Yeah.
let's try to keep the comments to 5 and 6 if we
That
can.
is very fair because Netflix was like, you can have all of them. And I've seen people like the day they release the episodes putting up videos. I'm like, baby, we can't keep up with that pace. That's insane. But
Yeah.
all right. There wasn't much on several of the couples, so we're just gonna run through the ones who didn't have much and then get into
Hmm.
the real drama for
Yeah.
episode 5 at least. Okay, so anything that you want to say about Tom and Maria?
So Tom and Maria, episode 5, I'm feeling like I'm not seeing much there
Hmm.
other than sexual tension,
Okay.
which, yeah, I see physical connection, but I'm not seeing anything else that's there.
Most definitely.
And so I wrote like, okay, well, what else is connecting you two?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Fair. And then Jasmine and Bobby, I don't feel like we know these people. Like we don't really get much on them.
The most we're getting is really their interactions with other people,
Couple.
but
Yeah.
I think that they have progressed their relationship physically. They seem to be pleased with each other. That's all I have on them. We don't know anything else. And same with Sabrina and Steven,
Hmm.
him and his Speedo. That's about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so now maybe we can get into Nicole and Beniah. So much to my disappointment, she did spin the block and end up with Vanaya, which, I mean, that's life, right? You have to explore or you feel like you have to explore the connections that you have. So that's if that's what she wants to do.
I will say, so they meet up at this coffee shop or whatever it is,
Hmm.
and they're meeting for the first time. And so, she's very happy with what she sees. She embraces him. He's happy with what he sees. He says, "Oh, you're a lot nicer than what I imagined." Talk about the whole Bob Marley thing. She apologizes to him. And I walked away from that interaction. He did propose to her. She says yes.
Hmm.
I walked away feeling like Nicole kind of cheated the system, where I feel like she knew what sealed the deal for her with Sam was, I think, the way he looked. And I feel like with Benaya, because she was pleased with what she saw, she's like, yes, 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 yes. Like, no
Hmm.
thought to the other, to me, glaring issues that could be what that would come with him. Like, I didn't get marriage, even husband connection with these two up until this point. So I
Okay.
don't know, I feel like she kind of cheated the system. She saw what she liked, and not to jump ahead, she confirmed what I was feeling in the next episode. So
But I will say I do think looks had something to do with it, but I also think there wasn't much convincing about Sam. Like he did say stuff like, "Oh, I think I love you too," and it was very it felt performative with
mhm.
Sam. So I think looks has something to do with it, but maybe also just he didn't feel genuine in person. And then she also had what Benaya said. So if he's in front of her and she feels he's not genuine, and then she has what Benaya said about him actually not being genuine, I could see
Mhm.
how the mixture of those things might have been what led to this. But that's just me.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I don't know. I think there are bigger issues with Benaya that I think it was just interesting to me. It would have made sense if she just walked away and said, "Okay, neither of these
Nobody.
options are worth exploring."
Hmm.
With Benaya, the commitment part, the stability, I don't know.
But he did at least try to address the commitment part, even though I still don't see it for him. But he did try to address that and say, I couldn't give you an answer then, but I'm giving you a commitment now. So I
What
think
changed
all
for
of those
him?
things, yeah, those things probably played a role in the decision that she made.
Yeah, I'm curious. I want to know more about what changed for him, but I don't know. We'll see.
I think he just really liked her. I don't think
Yeah.
much has changed for him. I think it's still going to be an issue in the future. I think he just really likes her, and I don't know. This is how people date. Like, you explore the
Yeah.
connections that you've had. And so, do I think they're gonna get married? Do I think they should get married? Absolutely not. But this is how people date.
Yeah. You right. You right.
Okay, so they pop up on the scene later on, and everybody's excited to see them, which made me feel like they're both genuine people. Like, the
hmm
excitement that they were able to get from the group. So,
And I
and
think everyone was rooting for them
yeah,
because a lot of people just did not see it for Sam, the
girls
men
and
or the
guys.
women.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of feel like poor Sam, but I mean, if this is how you present yourself, I don't know.
Right. Okay, so I want us to go to the real tea. Let's do Freddie and Catherine. How are you feeling about them at the start of episode 5?
So they're at the pool. She says she feels super comfortable with him. He says he feels the same. She once again brings up meeting the other couples, and her feeling like she needs to address something with Ollie.
So at the
Oh, go ahead.
beginning of episode 5, they did play this clip, like, of how it happened when Ollie went into the pods after, or went into the men's lounge after he and Catherine broke up.
Okay.
And so I can kind of see why she wanted to address it, but not fully. So here's what I think about Catherine. I get the sense that maybe Freddie isn't it for her, but she's saying the things to keep him interested. She knows how to play the game. That was the vibe that I got at the beginning of the episode. She's doing what she needs to do to keep him interested in her.
I also was getting the vibe that Freddie isn't it for her. And I can't tell at this point if it's just a him thing or it's an insecurity thing on her part. I think it bothers her, his level of attractiveness.
Because he's the more attractive one in the couple?
I do. I think the attention that he gets, and we see that later on, I think she's I think she's used to being with someone who's attractive like she is, but he's next level to where people are really like oohing and eyeing over him. I think that that bothers her.
Okay.
Um, I think it maybe takes away maybe from some of the leverage she may feel like she would have. Um, but either way, he said that he doesn't mind that she is going to bring it up with him.
Yeah, but
He's just like,
it also seemed like he felt like it wasn't as big of a deal as she was making it.
oh
So
yeah, he was like, it's your pride and ego. It's not.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when he came into the lounge afterwards, someone said, "Oh, did you just have a breakup or did you just break up with somebody?" And he was like, "Yeah, but she was totally cool about it."
Yeah.
That's all he said. And so I don't know if I think other people interpreted it as, unless he said more, but I think other people interpreted it as him saying, "Oh, I was the one who broke up with her." He never brought it up. Someone else asked him a question. Did you just break up with somebody? I guess
And he
that could
said,
be.
"Oh, she was so cool. She took it. It was
She
great."
was
He
cool
didn't
about it.
come in being super machismo and like, "Oh yeah, I was the one who let her down." I don't
Uh-uh. I
remember
think
that. And I felt like Tom and Maria were being a bit messy.
absolutely. I thought
And
so too.
yeah, I'm like, y'all, I think y'all need to mind y'all's business.
Nobody's
And
minding their business this season.
e-
That these
even
episodes at
if
least.
between y'all two as a couple, you're like, "Oh, well, I heard this and I heard that." At what point did you think it would make sense for either of y'all to go back to the other people and say what you
Exactly.
heard?
Exactly.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I think Freddie was just trying to appease her and be like, okay, well, if you feel like this is really what you need to do, and he said that he
Yeah,
feels
you
secure
need to do
with
that.
himself. So
All right, yeah. So I
yeah.
definitely thought they were putting a little too much dip on that chip, but it was okay. Freddie said she can go ahead. So do we want to get to the her pulling her to the side, or do we want to talk about Demi and Ollie first a little bit?
We can talk about her pulling Demi to the side.
Pulling Ollie to the side.
Oh yeah, Ollie, yeah.
Yeah. We messing up Ollie's
No.
name. Okay, so she pulls him to the side for a chat, and I thought it started fine. I just want to address this with you, getting out of the way. I, in these shows, never think it's a good idea for people who had a connection in the pods to be conversing for too long.
Well, I'll say the first thing that, and this is going to circle back just a little bit. Ollie says Kat is a pretty girl and looks similar to what he thought in his like confessional. And he's like all giggly and stuff, whatever. But I wrote that I felt if Catherine and Ollie, if either of them were really serious about their connections that they actually did make, they would have made it a group conversation, in my opinion. And if it
Interesting.
absolutely had to be one on one, then it would have been all of 2 or 3 minutes. Hey, nice to meet you. Keep it very simple. But I said neither one of these people are serious about their connections, and that's why it was as messy
Interesting.
as it was. If I were serious about my new man, I'd be like, hey, let's go have a chat with Ollie, and we all just so
Okay.
so everyone hears everything.
I don't want to sound like I'm defending anybody because I'm definitely not. But
Mhm.
if someone comes to you, so I see what you're saying on Catherine's side,
Yeah, because
but
she's the one who has
who
an
initiated
issue.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're Ollie, do you say, oh, well, if we're going to have this conversation, Demi needs to be there? Or when someone asks you to chat, are you just like, okay, cool, I'll go chat?
Oh, well, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, in this particular instance, since she
Hmm.
was the one that approached him, she had already told Freddie, "Oh, I have an issue with how it was, whatever was communicated." Then yes, you would just be like, "Okay, well, let's talk." You wouldn't make a huge deal of it.
Yes. Okay.
But how he conducted himself in the conversation, I'm like, we can't take you
Terrible.
serious. So neither one of y'all can be taken serious.
I don't even want to say I was disappointed, but I was just like eye roll the entire time because yes, if you have this thing that you need to address with him, address it with him and then keep it pushing. But the turn of the conversation, he asked her first, like, "Oh, so like, am I what you thought I would look like? Why did? Who cares? Y'all aren't together, and y'all won't be. If she
And
thinks
then
you are hideous or not, that's none of your business."
And then when he answered, because she, I think, asked back, he was
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, you're exactly what I thought you would be." To me, she seemed to be put off by that. Did you
And
see her facial expressions?
I did. And uh, not that I'm fighting to give him points, but if she's exactly what he envisioned, then he knew what he was giving up, essentially. Like he knew the
Hmm.
type of person he was giving up, and he chose, Demi, whatever she looks like or whatever. So
And
I think
she
that's
felt a way
why.
about that.
I think
She was
that's
like,
why.
"Wait, so I'm exactly what you thought I was,
And
and
you
you still
still
said
didn't
no?"
pick me.
And you can see it all over her face.
Hmm. I agree.
Um, but yeah, I also think too, this whole fishing for compliments and all of that,
Yeah.
hugging, none of that would have happened if your significant others were a part of the conversation.
Hmm.
And obviously, you know this is being recorded. You're
Hmm.
on TV. So if either of you were serious, you wouldn't have taken it that far.
It was giving very unserious energy, and I did not like that from my girl Demi at all.
And I will say, I never went back to watch exactly what Ollie said when he went back to the men's lounge,
Mhm.
but his answer was truthful in the fact that he
Yes.
did,
Did just break up with someone.
yeah, like he went into it intending to break up with her. So
Yes.
maybe it was a miscommunication. Maybe
Hmm.
he did lie. Whatever it was, I felt like what he said was true. I went into the pods to end things. Well, so did you.
Yes.
So it just so happened to be where you led the conversation. So technically, he was going to break up with her. So I didn't understand the big deal.
Why
It
was
seemed
it
like her pride and ego was
got in the
bruised.
way?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And from that conversation, I will also say I don't think either one of them want each other.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I don't think she really wants him. I think she feels a way that he didn't want her. I don't think she wants Ollie like that.
Interesting. I don't think he necessarily wants her. I
Same.
think she'd be open.
You think she'd be open? Okay.
I do. I think because Freddie is like pretty, I think there's something that's missing for Catherine with Freddie. And I think it's because he's so like whereas Ollie is more I don't know if manly looking because they're both manly looking, but I just think he has a little bit more edge to him than Freddie, and I think that is intriguing to her at this point.
Entices her. I will say too, Freddie has the looks, and I think sometimes when people are extremely attractive, you could assume like, oh well, maybe your personality isn't great, or your head is so inflated, or you're not humble, and so for all the looks that they may have, sometimes the personality and the way they carry themselves, the way that they treat people. But from what we've seen of Freddie so far, we're like, wow, this guy has the looks. He seems to be humble. He seems to be a very nice, respectable person.
Yeah.
And that could also be
Personality.
intimidating to her, where he's not just the looks from what we see so far. He has the looks, the personality, and he treats people with dignity and respect.
Yeah.
And the way that she's carrying herself, she may feel a way about, man, this guy really could be seen as the total package, obviously not perfect, where she on the other hand may be physically beautiful but may be struggling in the area of how she treats people and her personality.
That's interesting. I
Because attractiveness is how you look, but it's also your energy, it's also how you treat people,
it
it's
is.
all of it. And the way he has shown himself on this show, I think she feels a way that he appears to have it all, at least up until episode 5.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about Demi before we move forward? And just, I,
I was
oh,
gonna say when she went back to the table with Freddie and all of them, here she goes again saying, "Oh yeah, yeah,
Catherine.
he admitted he lied."
Yeah,
And it's
it
like,
was not that. He was like, I thought, I liked how he handled that because he really did squash it. Like,
yeah,
maybe it seemed like there was a miscommunication. If I did mistell it, like, by all means, I do apologize. I did like how he handled that, and that's where the conversation should have stopped.
right.
Even the hug that she asked for, like, no, why? I don't know. I think she's just maybe she's just used to being her flirty self and couldn't help it. But I just thought it was a little too much. But I do think that Demi was already concerned about this, and you know how you can sometimes start worrying yourself so much that things there's no place to go but down. I felt that energy from Demi from the beginning.
Right, her energy was already thrown off. Even the one-on-one conversation she had with Ollie before they went with the group,
Yeah.
she named all the girls but didn't name
Except
Catherine, who she was supposed to be friends with. So we already knew her energy was off, but Ollie wasn't assuring to her either way. And then he makes it worse when he confirms why she should feel away. When he comes back from the conversation with Kat, he doesn't embrace her, really even say much to her. He wants
Yeah.
to chop it up with Bobby.
Well, okay. Can we talk about that? Because he obviously realized there was a shift and starts to feel awkward. And I think like Bobby was his safe space, which of course he was wrong. And if there were any conversations being had, he should have been having them with Demi. But I think it was just like the things he said in the conversation with Bobby, he probably didn't feel comfortable saying them to Demi. Like, is it just me or is Kat eyeing me? Like every time I look at her, she's looking at me and she looks away. He can't say that to Demi because it'll add on to the pressure of her feeling insecure. So I think he just needed an outlet.
I agree, and the outlet should have came after the conversation with Demi, meaning you could have chopped it up with
Mhm.
Bobby, but you should have connected with your woman first. And Bobby tried to tell you, I think you need to be talking about this with your woman, but he's
And he
not
was
hearing it.
he was like, "Yeah, I think when we get back to the villa, I'll do that." No, now.
If you sense something's off now, why wouldn't you address it? So Bobby tried to steer you back in the right direction, but he wasn't open to
And
it.
you know how men are too. Like I feel like Bobby didn't push it. So when he was like, "Yeah, I think when we get back to the villa," Bobby was like, "Yeah, that should be good." Bobby, you know that's not good.
And with the whole thing of Kat eyeing him, I agree she was looking crazy, but how would you know unless you were looking at her? So it take for you to know someone's looking at you, you have to be
Maybe
looking
he
at.
felt the eyeballs on him and like would glance in the direction.
Yeah, and she was clearly pressed Cat the whole time, so I know she probably was looking
even
at him, and yeah.
even if she doesn't want him, right? I think
Hmm.
she still wants to be wanted by him.
Yeah,
Is
and
what
here
it
we
is.
have Jasmine clocking all the tea, not missing anything. She's like, "What's going on with them?" Like
You
she's like,
know,
"Why is this conversation happening?"
I also I don't know that I liked that because Demi was obviously trying to get her mind off of it, and I felt like Jasmine kept trying to bring her mind to it. And so I think it
Hmm.
just made for an even more awkward situation. Like not everybody does well in these types of settings. And so I think
Hmm.
like maybe Jasmine should have read the room just a little bit. But I did appreciate, like afterwards when Demi was sulking, because that's what she was doing. And
Hmm.
Jasmine was like, what's going on with you? Why are you leaving your man? Like, like it's okay for you to go and stand next to him. Like you
Hmm.
don't have to avoid him the entire time. So I think Jasmine definitely does care for Demi, and she's just trying to be, a girl's girl and a friend. I think at certain points,
She
it was
doing
a
too
little
much, but
overboard,
I
but
but
we
I
can
was
talk
kind
about
of here for all the commentary because it's TV, of course.
because it's TV. Yeah, but yeah, he was way too comfortable in that conversation. He should have talked to her first,
Hmm.
addressed her insecurity, reassure her. But I also feel like, and I don't know what his relationship background is, but I put down maybe he needs to learn how to be in a
Hmm.
relationship. Like because for us it's obvious, oh, you reassure your person immediately. It was almost like he cut the conversation with Demi, like she was saying something. He's like, oh, hold on, Bobby, can we talk for a second? It's like, why are you not talking to
Disrespectful, if
me?
you ask me.
Yeah, it was there's just no
And a no
excuse for it.
brainer. Who just common decency? Why would you cut her off mid sentence?
She's trying to talk to you about something, sir.
But
Okay.
yeah.
So she feels like he's not as affectionate in public, and that's something that she wants. And I feel like if that's what she's sensing, is probably true. Like she is a bit insecure, so a part of me is like, okay, we have to be mindful of that, and maybe it is something that she needs to. It is an area that she needs to build confidence in. So we can't always be like, oh, Ollie's the one who's making her feel this way. She feels that way on her own. But I do think if she's sensing a disconnect with him, that's 100% valid. And she should be able to like come to him and say that.
I think two things are true. Does she have an issue with insecurity? Yes. She may feel even more insecure because of this whole love triangle with Kat,
Yeah.
and Ollie is not helping, and everything about him in the way that he's presented does not tell me that he's a person that would struggle with PDA with anybody else. I'm not buying it.
Interesting. Okay.
Nope. I
Um,
in this episode, especially that scene, and not that you would compare couples, Ollie, the party guy, he's social, he's all these things. I'm not buying that this lack of PDA is because that's just how he always is. I don't have
yeah.
any I don't have concrete proof of that. I'm just giving my opinion on I don't think it's because he's shy or he doesn't usually do PDA.
I don't
It's
think it's because he's
something's
shy
off.
either. I
It's
I
something's
think
off.
if anything, it's it was an awkward, intense situation, and he didn't know how to handle it. So I don't think he's a person who wouldn't show PDA or anything like that. I agree with you 100% on that. I think it was a situation that turned awkward and he turned awkward along with it. Cuz I think about the him stopping her and then going to talk to Bobby. It's like I don't know.
I'm just gonna put it out here. Y'all can tell me if I'm off. I don't think he wants her. As of episode 5, he don't want her. So that's why he's giving her love and affection in private.
Okay. I didn't get that as of episode 5. So
Yeah.
you guys let us know what you think.
Yeah.
I yeah, so when they go back to the villa, I feel like she was about to start talking about it. He's like, maybe we should just go to bed. I said, absolutely not. Stay up. Stay up.
Hmm.
Do you need a Red Bull? What do you need? Because we're having this conversation now.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think she's very nice, and if I were her in that conversation, I might have been a little bit more assertive the one before bed, but she did still articulate like what she was feeling. And then I think the next day, the conversation that they had was more promising to me.
I'll say, so tell me if I'm wrong. In the conversation when they were laid in bed, is that where he asked, hey, what's wrong?
I I don't know. I don't remember.
So I wrote, hey, he starts off the conversation like, hey, well, what's wrong? He claims, oh, you don't have a reason to feel away. You know, I chose you. She says, yeah, I know. It's awkward. It's fine. To me, he wasn't reassuring enough. So the way he opened the conversation gave me he's not serious. If you after everything that went down, after the way you brushed her off with Bobby and all of that, and you have to ask her, hey, what's wrong? You're not serious.
Can I say and I don't a part of me also feels like Ollie is like somewhat oblivious to certain things. Like he's very attentive to certain things, but oblivious to other things. So I don't, and I think that's a fault. Like it's not something I'm trying to give him an excuse for, but I think like he should have been more attentive to how she was feeling in that moment. Instead, he was attentive to the awkward energy and the stares that Kat was giving him. So I think when he's like, what's wrong? I think he knows generally what is going on, but I think he was a little bit oblivious, which is why I say that conversation was not my favorite between them. The next day, I think both of them did a much better job when they were
Yeah.
on the, I don't know if it was a deck or something, but when they were
Yeah, on the
outside.
deck. Yeah.
Yeah, what did you think about that conversation?
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of lip service at this point because
Neosha. Wow. Okay.
yeah, I think he's saying I feel like you're being very generous to him. I don't know. I'm getting manipulation. I'm saying one thing, but my actions are showing something completely different.
Okay.
And because I'm on a very big platform, I'm going to have to say one thing but not really do it because that's not really this is not what I really want.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so in the conversation on the deck, certain things that she said that I appreciated was like she expressed her fear of coming off as insecure and coming off as jealous. Like I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to seem a certain way. And then so I appreciated her articulation of that. And I appreciated his like, but it's okay to say that you were feeling jealous. It's okay to say that you were feeling insecure. Like I understand those are valid feelings. This is an awkward situation. And so I felt like whatever awkward energy the two of them had, the conversation on the deck squashed it. Like they were able to come to an understanding with each other. She's like, yeah, I know my energy changed. Here's why I was feeling the way like, and then after you came back from this conversation, you weren't giving me the energy that I deserved. And he's like acknowledging that. And so like this conversation, I keep harping on it because I think it was really important to me for the things that came afterwards.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think he was more reassuring in that conversation than the
I
one
think he
before.
was reassuring with the words. Yeah,
Hmm.
I agree. Yeah, with the
Okay.
words. The
Okay.
actions is what I'm waiting for. So I'm like,
Okay.
I heard you, but I think what also kind of put me off is from the beginning of the conversation, I felt like a lot of it was about her energy.
Hmm.
And I'm like, her energy is one thing, but it was everything else that was happening. So
Hmm.
to me, her energy was maybe slightly off in the beginning, and it just exploded as things were happening throughout that whole beach night.
Hmm.
So it's like you're focused kind of on the wrong thing, in my opinion. So I heard what he said. Was her energy slightly off? Yes, we know she's insecure, but I think she has. Even if she was the most secure person, I think with
Hmm.
the way that things played out, I think a lot of people would have been like, "What is this? What is going
Mm.
on?"
Yeah.
So her energy was almost kind of irrelevant for me based off what I saw.
Mm. Interesting. Because of how she was before they went into the meeting, I think I her energy did play a role for me. Like I think she went
Mm.
in
Mm-hmm.
that way, and of course the way that things happened, and he's fully responsible. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a normal person could not have helped but feel that way. But even worse because she went in already
Mm-hmm.
feeling that way, like, oh, this is probably about to happen and it's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be positive and it's going to go bad, and then everything else after that was on him. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So okay. So wait, is that it for this episode?
I think, let's see.
Wait, let's talk about when Catherine and Freddie went to bed, because I feel like she was playing dumb and I didn't like it. Like in the bed with
Mm.
Freddie, she was all like, it just makes me sad because that's not Demi. And it's like,
Oh,
girl,
yeah.
you were sitting over there cackling with this man who you had a connection with, and you're just like, I don't know. I think it was just an energy shift in her, and I'm so concerned for her. You are not concerned for her. Stop lying.
Fake.
So
She
fake.
she just wants to keep this energy going because she feels a way that
Yes.
Demi got picked over her. She don't even want
She
Ollie.
was like, I don't want her to get in her head because I care about her, and you do not. Cut it out.
If you
Okay.
cared about her, you would have actually went to have a conversation to break the ice with her first.
Hmm.
But no, you waited. Yep.
So
Okay.
I think she knew exactly what she was doing. So summary of episode 5, Ollie and Catherine. Count your days. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm not. But all right. So episode 6. Do you want to go through
Mm.
all the? I don't want to say irrelevant couples, but all the
Yeah,
couples who.
let's get them out of the way.
Okay, so Sabrina and Steven, they talk about moving in. Nothing to see here.
Yeah, I think they went horseback riding. They really seem
Hmm.
to be into each other. I like Steve so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like them, even though we don't get to see much of them. I do like them. All right. Do you okay, let's do Nicole and Beniah.
Yeah. So they're
So
vibing. There's chemistry there.
they're vibing. She shares with him, oh, like she wasn't intimate with anybody until her 20s. Um,
Hmm.
you know, so they plan on, I guess, waiting a little bit longer to get physical. I don't know. It's a good vibe. They love each other's humor. I just don't know yet about outside life. So that's all I can say about them before we get to London at the end of this episode.
Yeah, I don't see them digging or having any conversations of, I guess, big substance of like lifestyle, or we're just not really not seeing much, I guess, because it's just their first date.
Yeah.
But even when I was thinking back to the pods with them, I don't remember a whole lot of substance from their dates either. So what did she say? She was like, oh, you're very attractive. And then she was like, see, I told you love isn't completely blind.
Yosha, please. Um,
It's because she likes what she sees. She's vibing with him.
but
Yeah. And I think,
also, I mean, normal.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I still think, girl, the answer should have been no to both.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Tom and Maria, so there's not much to say about them before they
Mm-hmm.
get to London here. You know, they're in everybody's business. Everybody's in everybody's business. I don't know. It just feels like a weird vibe in Greece for me. It feels like everybody wants to present positively and they're trying to like spot the weakest link, which I
Right.
didn't like.
I wrote for them. I'm like, okay, y'all are focused on everyone's business. And Maria, you need to focus on this man sending your newborn to daycare, potentially. You're worried about the wrong thing. Have your blinders on. And even with them too, like I said in episode 5, what else is there?
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah. And then I don't know if we want to just talk about them, just get them out of the way completely as far as this talk that they have at their when
No,
they're no, you don't want to get there?
I want
Okay.
to wait for London.
Okay. All right. All right, let's wait.
Okay. So, who else do we have? Jasmine and Bobby, but nothing really about them outside of the other couples until we get to London. All right, so then we're going back to Catherine
Yeah.
and Freddie and Demi and Ollie. So, something that Catherine says to Freddie, she said, "Oh, my best moment yesterday was walking in with you." And that, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that to me felt like, obviously she knows he's good looking. She wanted to show him off as kind of a trophy, it felt like,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I think she's very much there for appearances at this point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They look good together. She likes the attention. Like, ooh, I got the best looking guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um okay, so she has her talk with Demi before they talk about the cheating thing. Is that what it is? No, they talk
Um,
about the cheating first.
yeah, because they're at the beach for
Yeah.
dinner. I thought, yeah.
Okay. So here's where I think Catherine is beginning her exit plan, personally. I feel like, she talks about how she feels like she's not good enough for him. And she asks him if he trusts her fully.
And the way she worded it, she's like, it's funny that I didn't think I'd be good enough for you. And he says, but I've told you you're beautiful every day. Like, even the way she phrased that expression
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like a, huh, and to think.
Hmm.
I don't know. The way that was phrased, red flag for me. I didn't like, oh, it's funny to think, that wouldn't think that would be good enough for you. And I'm like, yeah, you confirmed what I've been thinking. She feels intimidated by his level of attractiveness.
It felt like she was digging to find something wrong, you
To
know?
to lower him down a few notches. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, maybe
She
that's what it
wanted to
is.
humble him in her mind, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think it's anywhere on his radar because he seems to
Yeah.
be oblivious to all this. She
He
sees
ain't
him
clocking
as up
nothing.
here.
Mm-hmm.
She sees herself as below because of the level of attention that he gets. So
Hmm.
she's like, I need to find a way to even us out to be like, oh yeah, so you aren't so perfect. There's something there. I just have
Okay.
to find it.
I can go with this because I'm just like, it just feels like she's trying to find a negative thing here. And I took it as she's trying to find something that she can keep harping on to be able to get out of this in the end because he's not it for her.
Well, that, and I also took it as a way to get him on the hamster wheel to chase her or to try to
Mm.
secure her even more
Okay.
to where she feels like I'm the one being pursued
Okay. Okay.
instead of it being more of an even playing field. Because even the way she said, oh, she asked, like, oh, have you cheated? He
Mhm.
says, yes.
Seven
And she,
years ago.
right. And then he's like, but it doesn't, it was a long time ago and all of that. But then she's like, the way her body language was when he
Oh, I
asked her was
got
like,
it.
oh, well, I've never cheated. So the
I'll struggle
judgment,
with this.
yeah, the judgment started right away. And what blew me was when she said that every boyfriend has
Relationship.
cheated on her.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, that sounds like a lie. Maybe it's true. But every single one has cheated on you. So with that, tells me is that should be something very top of mind. Then how did you go through the pods with him the
Without
entire
asking
time
that.
and never asked him if
Hmm.
every boyfriend has cheated on you?
Hmm.
You're just asking, you don't care.
Hmm. Interesting. 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 Okay, fair. Yeah, but she did say in the outside world she is gonna struggle with that. So, okay. All right. So, Emmy, Demi and Ollie, they have the talk. She says that, she has problems with communicating, or she has had problems with communicating. So I was like, kudos to her for being able to share, a good thing for her personal development, whether this works out or not. Um, okay. When they meet up with the other couples, Ollie talks to Beniah, and he talks about how, the other couples are being touchy feely. And for a second, it made him like maybe second guess, but he knows that they're good otherwise. Like outside of being around the other couples, he feels like they're good. And it's just when they're in those settings that it feels off. What did you think of this?
I I wanted him to say more about what his usual level of PDA is.
Okay.
Like if you're the person in previous relationships, in that conversation I was expecting him to say like, well, usually I'm just not a PDA kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is, how things are usually for me and being around y'all. I'm like, oh, is something wrong? It wasn't giving me reassurance that it just felt like, oh, you're like this with Demi, not all the time. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it left me feeling like, okay, you're concerned, but is it always no PDA with you in all your previous relationships? Or is it just with Demi?
He ended the conversation by saying, I've got nothing to prove to anyone but myself and Demi. So,
I will say he also talked about how he's feeling isolated, and I agree
yes.
with that. I do sense that there's this energy of a us versus them kind of vibe, and he is a bit isolated. I agree, and
So, okay.
unnecessary in my opinion.
Maybe this is why, because, for episode 5, you were saying, like, you felt like I was giving him a pass on certain things. And I think maybe because of episode 6, that
Hmm.
started to change my mind. Although in episode 5, I do think he was absolutely wrong. And I think it was mostly him being like, oblivious and thinking that, oh, I need advice from. He was thinking about what he needed. I need to talk to
Hmm.
Bobby, as opposed to thinking about his relationship and his person.
Hmm.
So I agreed with him saying that he felt isolated. I could see that just based on
Hmm.
the other things the couple said about them that day. So one day of observing them, and all of a sudden everybody's like, he's the bad guy. And there he had to have felt that energy. So when
I
he
think
said he felt isolated, it made sense.
I think it was one day of observing them, but also Maria and Tom running their mouths
Hmm.
and him being painted as a liar. I think also didn't help.
Mm.
I,
Okay.
I think that energy was already set in motion, like, oh, this guy isn't serious. He lies, That
Mm.
vibe was already kind of there. And then they observed them throughout the evening.
Mm.
And then Catherine also running her mouth, like, oh, yeah,
Mm.
well, he admitted he lied.
Mm.
It just set into motion this us versus them, and we don't really want to be around them.
Not even us versus them, but us versus him, because they
Him,
still were
yeah.
around Demi. Like she still
Well,
has her
yeah,
girls, we're gonna you know.
yeah. And there
So
was also because Demi hadn't had the conversation with Catherine yet, that energy was awkward as well because the
mm.
conversation happened too late. It should have happened earlier in the
Can we talk
evening or the
about that
day.
conversation though? Because
Yeah.
she comes in like, if I have feelings for Ollie, I wouldn't even be able to put up this act. Girl, you not putting up an act. We see where you are transparent
And she was looking all crazy. Did you catch on to that the whole time?
whole time.
Giving
Like,
Freddie weird looks, giving Ollie weird looks. She was looking absolutely crazy.
And then when she's like, and it really hurts me because Freddie doesn't really know you.
Why you
None of
bringing
y'all
Freddie
know
into
each
this?
other. Nobody know nobody. What do you mean?
And even he said she's manipulative.
He's not a social person. He's been overwhelmed in the social spaces. So that
Hmm.
could be why he doesn't know her well.
And that's not why he's there.
That part. Yeah, I didn't
Mm-mm.
like that. And she's like, there's no reason why we should all be happy in our couples and you're not happy. And Demi's like, but I am happy. And so this is where it like rubbed me the wrong way because you know how like, okay, so we go to this event tonight, we're not vibing. We've gone home, we've
Mm-hmm.
squashed it, we're on the same
Mm-mm.
page. But the people who were at the event last night, they're still having in mind where you were yesterday. And so it's like
Mm-hmm.
you're ready to move forward, but they're stuck on something that you guys have moved past. That's what I didn't like about this entire day.
Yeah. For whatever reason, I think I don't know if something else happened. I just don't understand why it seems like all of them have a certain energy about
Interest.
Ollie, an interest in them.
I
What
wonder why.
happened? What happened? Because, okay, say he did lie. What does that have to do with any of y'all?
They were just too invested, right? And then I think it put Demi in a place where she's like, it's not a reflection of Ollie, which I think a little bit it is because he should have been more reassuring at the previous day's events, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think her saying it's not a reflection of him was her maybe taking accountability for being in her head about the
Mm-hmm.
whole situation, whatever. Thinking she was making more of it than it was, but I mean, I don't think she did. I think she was right on track with how she was feeling about it. But anyway, Catherine
Yeah.
says, just show us you're happy. We want to see it. She's not here for y'all. She's
She
not
don't
here
have
to
to
show
prove.
nothing to nobody. And that's the thing, like, because things didn't go well with them that first day, I think everybody put them in a place where, oh, now you guys have to prove that you're happy to us. Who are you? I'm sorry.
Did you catch when Demi says, it's not Ollie's fault that she's feeling that way? She says that to Catherine, and then Catherine's like, "Oh, really?"
You're right. And she was like, he's the class clown. He hugs me. He reassures me. And I hate that, you guys can't see him like, oh, well, if you're happy. Yeah, her energy, she's
He
not
wants
happy
Ollie to
for
be
him.
the
She
villain.
wants him to be the villain. And
It's like,
it's
why?
like, because Ollie was so wrong the day before, I'm like, how dare you make me feel sympathy? Like, how dare you? But
I
episode
mean,
6 made me feel so much sympathy toward him.
I still feel how I feel. Like, I don't think he's into Demi, but I think focusing on Catherine, it's none of your business.
Mind yours. Also, Demi looked amazing in that blue jumpsuit or whatever it was. I
Hmm.
mean, the color, the shape of it.
Catherine is
Chef kiss.
pressed. She
Chef
she
kiss.
is she's pressed.
She was.
Hmm.
Uh, oh, I was gonna say something, but I also don't want to bring race into it. But yeah. Uh,
Hmm.
okay.
Remember for after.
Yeah, I will tell you later. Okay.
Okay.
So then after, or maybe while the Catherine and Demi conversation is going on, we have the Jasmine and Ollie talk. So Ollie, who's already feeling isolated, he goes over to this group of people and, he's talking to Bobby and Jasmine comes by.
No, she pushes her way right in the
Like,
middle.
can you just make I'm coming right here, make room. Yeah.
And
I
I will say, Bobby already knew what was coming because she had already told him, listen, I'm talking to your friend.
Yeah, I'm gonna have, and okay, we are best friends. What did you think about that? Because the night before
I
she was
would
like, I think I'm
never.
gonna have a conversation with him. Like, do you think that was her place? I don't.
Okay, so, oh, I'm going to talk out of both sides of my head.
Okay.
Obviously, I don't think she should have poked her head into it that much. I think she did cross the line. I think it would be one thing if she said it once, but I think she pressed too much. I know I wouldn't have said anything at all just because that's not my place.
Mhm.
But On the other side, because of how I see Ollie acting
Mm,
in public spaces with Demi,
mm.
it doesn't bother me.
Okay.
It
I
doesn't bother me. Like, press him on it, put him in the hot seat.
I
But
disagree.
but at the same time, I would never do that, and I
I
wouldn't
know.
advise
Okay.
anyone to. So
Here's
for
what
TV, I loved it. I was
I
following.
hated it, and let me tell you why. So I do think she should have said something. If I were her, I probably would have said something, honestly, because you know how I am. I hate to see people doing wrong, and I
Hmm.
don't think he realized how bad he looked. Like I think he sensed being isolated and maybe people are looking at me
Mm.
funny, but I don't know that he realized that it looked like he was treating her wrong. I think in
Hmm.
his head he had been treating her well for the most part in his head now.
And in his head, he was focused on her attitude and energy being off. He wasn't
I
even focused
I
on.
so that's where I think like he was a little bit oblivious. So I
Hmm.
think Jasmine, when she first sat down and said what she needed to say, like, "Hey, I want to know that my friend is okay,"
Hmm.
um, and I didn't feel like she was okay with the situation. I think that was okay for her to say. I would have stopped there
Oh
because
yeah. Well, when he said he was getting overwhelmed,
he
that was a
literally
clear.
it was so clear. Even before then, I was like, oof, I don't know. But he doesn't know her. And she didn't know that they had had the conversation before where they had squashed it, where he had reassured her and they were back on track. So she was approaching him and attacking him as if what happened the day before had just happened and they weren't in a good place.
You, while she was all the way wrong, I will say I think Jasmine's perception of Demi is that she probably isn't having these conversations with him. She doesn't have a backbone because even in that convo, she says, she's insecure, which I wish she wouldn't have
Have
said
said
it the way
that.
that she did. So I think because of her perception of her, she's like, I have to really stand up for this girl. But because she doesn't know her, she misstepped.
She completely misstepped. Yeah, so when he said, "Hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed," I wish she would have stopped there because as much as and Ali could turn out to be the worst human being on the planet, right? But you could see the like I don't want to mislabel it anxiety, but you could definitely see the discomfort that he was feeling in that moment. And I feel like there were multiple times where he tried to communicate his discomfort and it was dismissed. And I don't think that's cool at all.
I have a question.
Okay.
So when she was first asking him, like, it's okay if you feel it, you feel it. If you don't, you
That was
don't.
after he said he was uncomfortable.
That was after.
It was.
Um, I will say it wasn't until later where he was like, "Yeah, like I'm in it. I'm in it." Um, I think that part, and then when Demi actually walks up
Hmm.
and she's smiling, and then she's like, "Hey, you want to go for a walk?" And he's like, "No," and he snaps at her.
I think that was very misdirected. I do want to go back to like the whole Jasmine thing, right?
Hmm.
So, obviously she saw what she sees at the beach. Um, but I think the pressure that she was giving didn't necessarily wasn't giving them space to develop as a couple. So even if she feels like Demi needs to be taken up for, she I don't think is giving Demi space to be able to establish herself as the a person in this couple. She's not giving Demi the space to develop and to say what she needs to say to Ollie. Like she feels like she has to be the savior. And then she goes into the so where's your head at? Do you like her or not? And he's like, obviously, I like her. I wouldn't be here if I didn't like her. That was his answer, right? But then she keeps pushing, like, I mean, either you're in or you're not. And he's like, how many times do I have to say this to you that, like, I care for her, I'm here for her? And then he says, what you're doing right now literally isn't helping me at all. You're actually making me feel
Hmm.
pressure. So, like, I think because he had already said that he was uncomfortable and she kept on pushing And like, if I were Ollie, Neosha, I would have cried in that situation. And maybe that's why I feel so sympathetic. But when you're like trying to get the attention off of you, you already feel isolated in a situation. The only time where people are paying you attention, it's to attack you. I would have cried.
Yeah, I agree. Jasmine completely mishandled it, but I think he should have removed himself from the situation like he did. And I think when your woman comes up,
Yes,
you don't take out your frustrations on her. So once
absolutely.
again, it's like just like the day before, it's like she gets caught in the crossfire in this whole thing. And it's like you're not using these opportunities to like progress y'all ahead. It's like, okay, once again, now she's on the receiving end of something that she really didn't set in motion.
You know
Now
what
I
it
could
reminded me of? Oh, sorry.
I was
You
gonna
know what?
say I could agree that um him being frustrated with Jasmine, now he's questioning, well, did Demi put you up to this? But you're an adult. Have that conversation with Demi. All she said was, hey, do you want to go on a walk? Why would you turn her down the way
Mm,
you did in that moment in front of them?
so here's what I will say. It reminded me of Insecure. I don't know if you remember this episode because I've seen that show way too many times. But
Mm.
do you remember when they were at Tiffany and Derek's going away party, and Nathan and Lawrence had a back and forth over Houston barbecue and LA
Mhm.
barbecue? Or if you were transplant, just say that. And it got personal. And after that conversation, when Issa comes up to him, he's kind of giving her cold shoulder. He's kind of snappy with her. So that's what it reminded me of. I was like, not Insecure playing
Mhm.
out in real life, but do I think he was wrong? 1000%. And he has to learn how to control that. I Maybe it's just me. I can see snapping in that situation. And it's not Demi's fault. He should not have taken it out on her. But I will say that was one thing where I could see it happening. Like I don't
You know what? If it were an isolated incident, yes, we all snap. But the way you conducted yourself with that one on one with Catherine, the way you dismissed her with Bobby
fair.
after the conversation with Catherine, the way when she tried to talk to you before bed, you dismissed her again about, that day. And then
Mm-hmm.
now you've dismissed her again
Yes.
after this interaction with Jasmine. It's the totality of it for
Yeah.
me. And that's why I don't really have much sympathy for him at this point because I'm thinking of all of what I've seen in the last 2 days where it's like, oh, we've all done that where it's like you snap on someone. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it ain't even had nothing to do with you. Sorry. But because of how everything has lined up, and I'll say this, was Jasmine wrong? Yes. But I think
Ain't no
because
but. I'm sorry.
she sees the BS of Ollie in the front that he's putting on in terms of being interested in Demi, I think in her mind she's like, let me just rip the band-aid off, which it's not her place. And I don't think it's right. But I think that's where her mind was of like, no, I'm gonna push it and push it so that Demi isn't being strung along. Like I'm gonna be the one to rip the band-aid off, which is not her place. She's completely wrong. I don't think she's right for doing it. I'm not co-signing it. But I think in her mind, she's like, let me just get this over with for this girl because I'm clocking the T on this guy and he's not being genuine.
Okay.
And I'm not saying I agree with it because I would be mortified if my friend did that. And yeah, the alcohol doesn't help either. And I don't want to jump ahead, but Jasmine is a piece of work, and I hope Bobby can
No, and,
handle
and I
her.
think that's I don't know. I think that is like my biggest issue. It made me uncomfortable. It was a scene that I just would never want to be in. But so Demi comes up, and I think she's like, of course, trying to calm him. She's the sweetest. And so she's like trying to calm him, and she's like, what's going on? All the frustration that he's saying, like, nobody has my back here. I just want to be out. Like, I don't know. You didn't watch this season of Married at First Sight, but New Orleans, there was this couple where they both had like social anxiety. The cameras were a lot, and then the situations that they kept being placed in, it was just uncomfortable for those who did watch that show. I'm thinking about Karen and Miles, and the entire season the internet was like, oh, she don't really like him for real, she doesn't really like him for real, she doesn't like him. And like, of course, after filming we saw different things. I hate how he handled the situation, because he does need to be more situationally aware. Like, him getting up and leaving adds to people thinking you're mistreating this girl. So it's like, unfortunately, even though you are frustrated right now, you feel like nobody has your back. The reason why she's like, hey, just hug me and let's talk about it, is because she's aware of how everything is looking, and she's trying to calm it down. And I just wish like he would have stayed there in that moment just with her.
That, and probably to also reassure her as well.
I don't think it's his place to reassure her in that moment. That's just my thought. Like,
Well, yeah,
after being
maybe not.
attacked by Jasmine the way he did, I wouldn't expect much from him.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Him storming off and
Yeah.
being like, oh, I don't even know if I want to be here and all of that. You have to contain your frustrations on what the frustrations are. It feels like Demi's getting hit by a lot of strays.
Absolutely. I do think she is.
And if you're really serious about a marriage, potential marriage, you've already proposed, you have to be aware of the strays that she's catching.
I feel like this couple in particular hasn't had the chance to like find their legs. And I'm not saying that I think it should work or whatever. I think for all of this to happen on the honeymoon is just a lot. And I don't think they were even given a chance to be settled. Partially 89% because of Ollie and how that conversation went. And then I think it was just like a kind of a domino effect from there on out. But I just don't think they had a fair shake with all the scrutiny that they had coming from everybody else.
I agree. And I want to bring this up because I want to ask. They had the conversation about being intimate, and she was just like, oh, basically, I'm looking forward to it. And he's just like, oh, but I want to take things slow. I don't know. I could believe it on one hand, but I also, from everything that I'm seeing, I could see him not advancing things physically with her just because it adds another layer of complication. I think he's still either trying to figure out how much he wants to be in this, how much he's into her, and I think him pumping the brakes on that is because he's not secure in how he feels about her. And
Oh,
as far as being serious about moving forward with her, like, okay,
I
I don't
didn't.
want to be the guy that is, doing the most with her intimately, to then and knowing that I'm not really that into her. So
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't take it as, oh, I'm ready for this for her on her side. I didn't take that as, oh, I'm ready for this like to happen immediately.
no, not immediately, but
Okay.
she was like, oh yeah, like I'm excited for when that comes. And he's like, yeah, but I want to take my time. I don't want to progress things, too fast because of the emotional connection and all of that.
Oh. I
I
didn't
don't
read
know if
that
I'm
much
buying it.
into it because
Uh,
of the conversation he had with Bobby as well, where he was like, "Oh, maybe tonight will be my night." So I don't know. I didn't read too much into it, but I just felt like, for me, besides the conversation that he had with Catherine, which is a red mark on his report card as far as I'm concerned. I'm interested to see what the move back to London brings for them more than anybody else. That's how I feel right now. What?
Um,
Oh.
so at the end of this episode, just so we can wrap up Ollie and Demi, I
Hmm.
think I don't know where they were sitting, but he says I'm getting to the point where I'm questioning if there should even be an us. He says that we're not ourselves when we've been here.
No, that's not what he
Um,
said.
he said, what did he say?
He was saying, I wonder if this is even for us.
Okay. The gist of that conversation
Yeah.
that I got was he's in this space of like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And her response gave that she's convincing them, like, hey, we should keep trying.
Okay. I didn't get that. You know what? We might be torn on at least with episodes 5 and 6. Probably, and I'll accept it. Probably because
Did he
like the
not
whole.
say he don't know if he wants to move forward?
So here's my what I took that conversation to mean, and you could tell me how you took it.
Mm-hmm.
So they were talking about the context of we're out here around everybody. You're not yourself. He said this to her, like, you're not yourself when we're around everybody. I'm not comfortable when we're around everybody. And I'm wondering if this is even for us. So what I thought would happen after that was they would probably pull out of the TV show, the process in general. That's where I thought the conversation was going. I thought that they were both acknowledging that being in the group setting was like making them question if they even had a connection.
Yeah, I took it as he was questioning if he even wanted to do them
Okay, yeah,
at
I
all. Yeah.
y'all
And
let us
and
know what
and,
you thought. I know they're gonna
and
eat me
her
up.
answer to me gave that she was kind of like trying to convince him like, no, but we should keep trying, and then obviously we get to the point where they're back in London. So
Yeah,
they did.
and maybe so when they did get back to London, I think he said something like, me and Demi considered like pulling out of this process, but then we
Mm,
decided, you know what, we're not quitters, we're gonna stick with it. So that's how I interpreted it. And then when they came in to their apartment and she was like, I feel like we're good now. I'm ready to see everybody. And he said, you know what? I'm good on seeing everybody. So
it
that
just it's mind blowing for me. Out of everything that we saw, how did this guy get so isolated? I want to know. Maybe after they'll spill more tea. It's just how is everyone so invested in making him the villain?
like I said, I'm gonna keep this light. So maybe we could talk.
Mm,
But I
yeah.
will say, there's a demographic on this show, and
Mm,
Emmy, and Ollie is one of one.
okay.
That's all I'm gonna say about that.
So,
Um,
so I want to talk about Freddie and Kat though, and them laying in bed real
when they
quick.
moved in,
She got this man crying,
I know she got him right where she wants him.
and maybe I'm reaching, but the look on her face was actually kind of annoyed. Like, is this dude really crying? Because he was like, I don't want to lose you. Like, I feel like this could be a major hiccup in us progressing forward.
Hmm.
And she looks almost annoyed, like right before she goes in to comfort him and give him a hug. And I wrote, I think her plan, she kind of has him where she wants him, but also maybe didn't expect him to have such a humbling reaction to her feeling a way about him being a previous cheater.
You know, in London, I'm really torn with Catherine because on the one hand, I don't ever want to like dismiss people's experiences. So if she has always been cheated on, I can completely see why her past would be triggering, consider why his past would be triggering to her. But then certain things that she says just makes me think like she's just not ready for marriage, and she's not ready for marriage with him. So she said something about, it sucks that we're stuck here together until the wedding. And then something else she said was, now we're in each other's pocket 24/7. It just feels like she does not want to be with this man.
Mm-mm. Girl, what did you think it was going to be? I just said, poor Freddie.
Yeah, he got something on his hands.
Mm.
Who do we want to go to next? Nicole
Let's
and
talk about
Beniah.
Jasmine and Bobby. She's like, if you
Okay,
think
the
you're gonna
only
be on this phone,
isn't that crazy? I don't know. So here's what I said. I think most people these days are on their phone a lot. So I don't know that I would like. She was really setting the boundaries quick. Like,
I I will say I think she's a lot. I think I could appreciate her being very open and direct about, hey, these are my expectations. Now it's on him to be
yes,
like, hey, this is
you're
what I
doing a
can do,
lot.
this is what I can't do. So I could
Yeah.
appreciate her being upfront and
Hmm.
not getting an attitude because he's on his phone or he does this or that. Well, she's
Hmm.
laying it out for you. What did she say in the previous episode? Well, oh, if that was me, I'm letting you know it won't be me. That whole energy that she gives, I hope Bobby is ready.
I don't think he is. He's picking it up, but I don't think we're going to hear much from Bobby. Whatever. I would not be surprised if Bobby is someone who gets to the altar and says no, and we don't really have an idea
We don't
why.
even
Like
know.
we could put two and two
Yeah.
together, but he won't say why. So yeah, when she
Well,
said
she
I
she
don't,
already says I'm a jealous person, so
she did say that. She said I don't use my phone when I'm with other people, and he goes, okay, is that like a hint? Like, am I supposed to not use my phone? But yeah, she did say she's a jealous person. So it'll be interesting to see how they play out. I think.
yeah.
All right.
Mm,
Nicole and Benaya.
yeah.
He gives her
Uh-huh.
a ring when they get back to London.
Mm.
You know what I'm concerned about with them being in the same place throughout this experiment? I don't think we're going to see Benaya for real. We will not get a glimpse into Benaya and who he really is, Benaya the Explorer, because this process requires them to be in the same space by contract. And so that's not his real life. His real life is not, I'm in
Mm-mm.
one space for a long time, which maybe it could be if Nicole provides a home, a permanent home for him. But yeah, what would concern me is that we're not really seeing how this man lives before they have to go to the altar.
That and he could be under a bit more pressure in that this is very much outside of his norm. If
Hmm.
he's used to being all over and doing this and doing that, and now you're cooped up, what are you going to be doing for the few weeks, however many weeks that they're in this apartment? So that'll be interesting.
I think it's an adventure for him, so I think he'll perform well, and that's what concerns me.
Mm,
I think he'll
okay.
be perfectly fine because this is like an exciting thing, and he likes exciting things.
And he got a place to stay.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just very concerned about that.
Okay.
Do we end on Tom and Maria?
Yep.
Okay, so she feels like he's been on his phone too much, and he's like, "Well, that's what happens when you're a high powered executive, high powered PR executive, whatever his
Mm-hmm.
job is." So their age difference concerns me.
Mm.
So not that there's 8 years between them, that part doesn't concern me, but 30 and 38, those two things concern me because they're both millennials, but like the mindsets could possibly be different. Also, they're at different stages in life, it seems, and she's more of a
Mm.
creative, whereas he's more, I don't know, maybe analytical. And
Mm.
so those differences would be great if the analytical person appreciates the creativity in the creative person. And if the creative person appreciates the analytical person being analytical. But I think what we're seeing
Yeah.
from Tom is that he doesn't necessarily appreciate her, maybe what he interprets as her being free spirited and not like 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm concerned for where they are in life. I'm concerned that 30 and 38 might be a little bit too much for these two. Yeah.
I didn't think about the age as much. I just thought, oh, they're just very different. And I think maybe their values, their outlooks on their futures,
Mm-hmm.
their plans. And I wrote, I think Tom went with Maria because of the energy she gave. Maybe it was the youthfulness and the outgoingness of her personality.
Yeah.
But Natasha may have fit better because she was maybe more like him in the way his life is outlined.
Mm.
It's almost like, I don't want to say he picked a good time, but had all these feels for Maria when it's like you talk about her being a makeup artist and how like, oh, I don't know if I could have seen myself with a makeup artist, and I would have had these preconceived notions about this person. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking, but you knew that in the pods about her.
Yeah.
So if you're this person that has thoughts on what people do for a living and how compatible it needs to be with their partner, he also said, yeah, you have to be with someone who's ambitious and who wants to work hard. You had time to know all of that. So I don't know. It feels like he chose Maria, and now he has all this judgment about
Who
what
she
she does and what her life is going to be. It almost feels like he may want to try to mold her and push her to be what he wants. So he wants Maria and all the fun and free spiritness of her, but he also wants her to be a corporate baddie and bring in the big bucks and go right back to work when the children are born. It's like, well, maybe you should have just picked Natasha.
This is one of the things that concerns me about the age gap, right? Like you
You think it's
know,
age, or you think it's just
I think it's one of the
personal?
factors. I think age is one of
Oh,
the
okay.
factors.
Because Natasha
Yeah.
was 32, but I think she was an HR professional.
I think I think sometimes older men go with a younger woman because they think they'll mold her. So I think age comes in
Mm.
that way.
So you think he was already thinking, oh, I hear this about you, but there's a possibility I can shift to you.
Maybe subconsciously, I don't
Mm.
want to have him out here looking like a villain, but
Hmm.
I just I think maybe age and lifestyle, like
Hmm.
30 and
Because
38, I
in my
think can
mind,
be.
if she worked in PR at 30 years old and had a more what he deemed as a lucrative or ambitious career,
Mm,
would he be saying all of this?
mm,
Because at 30, you would have had time to go to school, get in your career, and get settled a bit. She's not 20. So I hear the age part. I wrote, I think you may have should have went with Natasha
hmm.
if you felt like being compatible with someone as far as career and future ambitions go versus trying to force Maria
Into
into a
that mold.
lifestyle where it seems like she's been pretty open and honest about what she
Yeah.
does, what she expects, what she wants.
Yeah.
Um, and this is why y'all shouldn't have been in everyone else's business because y'all have what seems
Stuff.
to be big fundamental differences.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely. All right. Well, those are our thoughts. I just know I'm going to hear it in the comments
what?
for showing sympathy for that man.
But
But
he does deserve some. He was isolated. I agree with that. Jasmine was doing too much. So,
so we'll see y'all for episodes 6, 7, and 8. No, 7, 8, and 9. We'll
hmm
try to get that up within the next few days. But yeah, let us
hmm
know what you think. And if you made it to the end of this, make sure you are subscribed. And we'll see y'all
hmm
on the next one. Bye.
bye.